This radio program is PG-13. Parents strongly caution some material may be inappropriate for children under the age of 13.
The following program is sponsored by Michael W. Smith. The views expressed on the following program are those of the host and not necessarily those of staff, management, or ownership.
Phoenix, Arizona. It's Brother Mike. I'm back on the radio, HardcoreChristianity.com. Welcome to the Arizona Deliverance Center. Welcome to the program. Thanks for tuning in again. Today's Bible study, Queer Gen Z. Got another good one for you today. Please call somebody and tell them the radio program's on. Getting weird out there. You know what? This is Brother Mike. I'm a professional counselor at the Arizona Deliverance Center. We're downtown on 15th Avenue, just south of Osborne Road. It's the red brick building. If you go to the website, HardcoreChristianity.com, you'll see all of our ministry services. You know we have a couple of live services every week at 7 p.m. on Thursdays and Fridays. We have also live Zoom services on Mondays and Wednesdays. Send me an email, mike@hardcorechristianity.com, or go to the website. You can catch any of those services. I'll send you the code and the password for the Zoom services. I'm also on my podcast on Sunday mornings at 9 o'clock Arizona time. Mountain time. I'll send you the information to get on to twitch.tv. Of course, we have all kinds of other ministry services, free counseling services for born-again Christians. We have children's deliverance and healing services, women's seminars. We've got everything. Please remember Sister Karen. She's on the homepage of the website. Be happy to list your house for sale. She loves working with born-again Christians. Please send us another donation on the PayPal button on the website. February is my anniversary. I've been on the radio now for 21 years, thanks to you. Queer Gen Z, today on Hardcore. Here are the generations, you know what they are. The baby boomer generation, as you know, started from 1946 and went to 1964. That's my generation. I'm an older person. Then Generation X kicked in from 1965 to 1980. The next generation was the Millennials. You remember them? Yeah, 1981 to 1996. And now we're in the Gen Z generation. They're from 1997 to 2001. This one is by far the worst of the batch, no question. An interesting survey came out about queerness. People are now queer, right? When I was young, again, as I said, I'm a baby boomer. When I was young, if you used the word queer in somebody, that was a derogatory term. It was negative. Queer meant you were gay, lesbian, something like that, and that was a negative thing. Baby boomers saw homosexuality as a mental illness and a sinful behavior because of the Bible in Leviticus and in Romans chapter 1. Christianity classifies it as a sin. Homosexuality is a sin. Lesbianism is a sin. Adultery is a sin. All forms and types of fornication is a sin. Pornography is a sin. Prostitution is a sin. All sexual sins fall under the category of fornication. And in Christianity, homosexuality is a sin. So everybody in the older generation saw it as something negative, saw it as something sinful. Okay? And a recent survey came out. The word queer, as you know, has changed. It is no longer a derogatory term. If you say, I'm queer, it's almost like a normal term, like you're questioning your gender identity or your sexuality. Queer now means something relating to a sexual or gender identity issue that does not correspond with established ideas of sexuality and gender, especially heterosexual norms. Okay? This is the term now. Queer is no longer negative. But in the Old Testament, as you know, we've had all kinds of libraries across the country and schools having drag shows, which the Bible declares is also a sin. Okay, they're basically grooming kids, and the Bible is against men and women wearing opposite clothing. For example, Deuteronomy chapter 22, verse 5 says, "The woman shall not wear that which pertains to a man, neither shall a man put on a woman's garment, for all that do so are an abomination to the Lord." Now remember, back then, when the law was given, many of the countries that Israel took over, they were all idol worshippers. For example, many worshiped the star of Venus or the star of Mars, and during those ceremonies, men would wear women's clothing and women would wear men's clothing in worshiping idols. So Jehovah was particularly against this swapping clothes, not just for gender issues, but also for idolatry issues. But either way, God ruled it out. I wanted to share something with you. A recent poll came out last week from the Public Religion Research Institute. They did a survey of Gen Zs. What's a Gen Z? Well, yeah, somebody born after 1997. Okay, so these are young people. According to this poll, 25% of the Gen Zs identify as LGBTQ. Can you believe that? Now, for the last 200 years, research into homosexuality has never yielded the population, the general population in the United States, above 8%. It's never been above 8%. Can you imagine that? Now it's 25% for Gen Zs. And there's a reason for that. What is that reason? The poll also found something else interesting. Nearly 50% of Gen Zs are more likely to identify as a liberal and tend to be less religious than the previous generation, millennials or Generation X, and far less than baby boomers, my generation. 28% of Gen Zs considered themselves to be LGBTQ. 16% of millennials saw themselves as LGBTQ. 7% of Gen X and 4% of baby boomers saw themselves as LGBTQ. Now, last week, as you know, Congress held hearings from the tech giants, you know, Snapchat, Facebook, X, that kind of thing. And the CEOs testified. And Congress is concerned over the fact that social media is damaging our young people in the United States. They're very concerned about it. They feel that social media is controlling them and that it's affecting their psychiatric health. It's affecting increases in suicide rates. They're concerned it's causing social media stalking. It's causing mental health problems. All kinds of things going on that Congress is trying to figure out what's happening. Of course, I teach on these subjects all the time on the radio, and I've explained it over and over again. The social media are controlled by Satan, and it's his job to torment and torture young people and spread mental illnesses all across the country, which is exactly what he's doing. They showed that Gen Zs were more likely to identify as liberals. Can you imagine that? 31% identified as Democrats, 30% as independents, only 21% identified as Republicans. Well, you know that the far left is the polar opposite of God in the Bible. The further you go far left, the further left you go, the more you will find ungodly, anti-Christ, anti-biblical people. All the polling indicates that Democrats are more likely to be atheists or agnostics than Republicans. Now, that's not to say that Republicans are morally superior to Democrats. I mean, they're not. The whole lot of them are rotten to the core. But if you're a liberal and you're on the left, there's no question that Christianity is not in your playbook. Christianity is not in your playbook. And the problem is the Bible is hated because it is not politically correct and it doesn't fit in with the social narrative. And they found that Gen Zs in this survey were less likely to go to church, less likely to adhere to a religion than the other generations. They're becoming less religious, more atheistic, and more agnostic. These Gen Zs were the ones behind much of the BLM and Antifa rioting in 2020. And this was a pretty big survey. They surveyed over 6,000 respondents. It wasn't, let's call 50 people and see what we can come up with. This was a considerable survey, and it was very lengthy. We all know what's happening here. It's so easy to see. The Gen Z's minds are being taken over by demons, and they're being brainwashed through social media. Congress doesn't understand it, and they want to try to fix it, which they're not going to be able to do. Kids are more rebellious, tend to live with their parents longer, have no real interest in jobs or careers, and are much more likely to be on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, squandering their days and wasting their lives. And this is exactly what Satan, who controls social media, is doing. If your son or daughter is stuck on social media and they want help, 602-636-5800. Jesus said deliverance was the children's bread. And these spirits that get into the child's mind on social media, the Gen Z people, their minds are being taken from them. And Satan is using social media. In particular, the number one is TikTok. Number two is Facebook. Satan's playground.
The views expressed on this program are those of the host and not necessarily those of staff, management, or ownership. This program was sponsored by Michael W. Smith.